Welcome. My name is Bjørn Smestad, and I'm working in teacher education at Høgskolen i Oslo, Norway. My talk is on Norwegian textbooks for grade 1 to 10 in the Norwegian school system, which means the pupils are aged 6 to 16. I use the term LGBT and the terms lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender in this presentation. Even though they are problematic, as they do perpetuate a binary view of gender, they are commonly used. In this time frame, I cannot go into more detail on that discussion. First, a little background. Norwegian research shows that the term homse, meaning gay, is still a term of abuse in Norwegian schools. Teaching of LGBT issues is still problematic. Many LGBT people are still not open about their LGBT status, and this is particularly true of bisexual and transgendered people. And this seems to influence their lives negatively. And many, even young people, have negative attitudes towards LGBT people. Therefore, research on teaching of LGBT issues in school is still important. In Norway, sexuality and LGBT issues are not mainly the responsibility of one school subject. It is a shared responsibility between several subjects. Religion, philosophies of life and ethics, I will use the Norwegian abbreviation RLE, natural science, social studies, Norwegian and English. Here I have given some keywords on how LGBT-related goals are included in the Norwegian curriculum documents. Goals are given for level 1 to 4, 5 to 7, or 8 to 10. We see that RLE should discuss ethical issues, natural science should work on gender identities and sexual orientations, social studies have a number of goals related to LGBT, while Norwegian and English have language-related goals. Some key points from previous research on textbooks in Norway. A study of textbooks from the previous curriculum shows that homosexuality often was depicted as only a problem. Love was often only connected to straight people, and the textbooks used phrases like de homofile, the homosexuals, creating a distance between themselves and gays. In a new study, books from 3 subjects were analyzed, and one conclusion was that Norwegian textbooks depict gay tolerance as part of the Norwegian and homophobia as foreign. In another study of natural science textbooks, it was shown how the books treat prevention and sexually transmitted diseases only in a heterosexual context, while homosexuality is not connected to sex. Internationally, there is not that much research on LGBT issues in textbooks for pupils in this age range. Temple looked at 20 Canadian textbooks, showing that textbooks mostly ignored homosexuality. When it was treated, it was in a negative context and was reduced to sexual activity. Gray looked at textbooks in English as a foreign language. There was a blanket avoidance of any representations of clearly identified LGBT characters, and all examples connected to love was heterosexual. Hawkins looked at history books in the US. LGBTQ persons were largely ignored, and important monuments in LGBT history were ignored. My study is based on 129 Norwegian textbooks collected as part of a Norwegian Textbooks Award. Thanks to LLH for letting me use the material. The books are for 1st to 10th grade in the Norwegian school system. 246 pages referred to LGBT issues. These have been analyzed for their theme, relevance for LGBT issues. Is it the main theme, or is LGBT just mentioned in passing? for heteronormativity and for problem focus. In addition, the illustrations have been analyzed. It is important to note that I have only analyzed pages where LGBT is mentioned. Thus, my study will reveal places where LGBT could have been mentioned but was not. First, let me just note which subjects the pages are from. To me, it was surprising that so much would be from Norwegian and English textbooks. These pages are mostly fiction, where the protagonist is LGBT. Thus, these subjects take their responsibility much further than the curriculum goals demands. I do note, like Åse Røtting, that the natural science textbooks do not include much about sexual aspects of the LGBT issues. They are more concerned with love. Perhaps it would be better if natural science left romance to other subjects and instead gave the pupils information about safe sex for LGBT. Of course, natural science could also have given important information about transgender issues. The curriculum goals are, as I mentioned, given for grades 1 to 4, 5 to 7, and 8 to 10. When looking at which grades the pages are from, we see that textbooks tend to postpone the LGBT issues as much as possible. They prefer to treat it in 7th grade when they have to do it in the 5th to 7th grade, and in the 10th grade when they have to do it in the 8th to 10th grade. That seems to be at odds with, for instance, WHO recommendations. Is heteronormativity still an issue in the textbooks? With heteronormativity, I refer to the practice of assuming that the heterosexual is the norm, and that all people we meet are heterosexual until proven otherwise. There are some examples from the textbooks where homosexuality is defined based on heterosexuality. For instance, assuming that everyone knows what it is to be straight. One example, gays fall in love, have broken hearts and have good and bad times, just like straights. There are also a number of other examples where textbooks seem to believe that pupils are straight. For instance, many gays and lesbians are fighting for the right to adopt children. Do you support them? But there are almost as many examples of the opposite, what I have called non-heteronormative. Many textbooks write about humans instead of writing about gays or straights. For many, finding out about their sexual orientation is important, is one example. They define terms at the same time and treat them as equal. For instance, researchers are not sure why we become straight, bisexual, or gay. And they use illustrations which are not necessarily a mother, father, and a child. I've found another troubling thing though, what I call homonormativity. The huge majority of pages refer to homosexuality. Many in general terms, but also many with explicit mention of gender. Bisexuals, on the other hand, is only mentioned on 38 of the LGBT pages. Transgender is mentioned on 4 pages, and 2 of them have unacceptable definitions. They say that trans persons are people who can feel both male and female. There are, luckily, very few examples where LGBT is discussed only in terms of problems. I'd like to show you this quote, though, as it is a bit cute. The authors write about bullying, puberty, incest, incompetent parents, racism, homosexuality, unstable friendships, but also about positive friendships and good parents. Wouldn't it be interesting if it had been written in this way instead? The authors write about bullying, puberty, incest, incompetent parents, racism, unstable friendships, but also about positive friendships, homosexuality, and good parents. I've also looked at the 59 illustrations with LGBT theme. The typical image is of a same-sex couple, or at least they seem same-sex, and they are more often female than male, often white, quite often in a good mood, often of school age, but more often adults. The photo from the movie Fucking Åmål is found 4 times, and is quite typical. There are no illustrations that can be said to be clearly bi or trans illustrations. It is difficult to illustrate bisexuality, though. There are also other illustrations, such as concentration camp prisoners, historical figures, the words Björn is gay written in the road, and rainbow flags and other symbols. In conclusion, the divided responsibility between school subjects makes it seem a bit random which themes are covered where. I do get the sense that important topics may be lost for pupils with an unfortunate combination of books and an average teacher. The subjects Norwegian and English have a surprisingly high number of LGBT-related pages, mostly fiction. It is important that teachers are aware of how these can be used to talk about the subject. LGBT issues are pushed as late as possible, and heteronormativity is still an issue, even though I see many exceptions as well. Homonormativity, though, is as much of a problem. Bisexuality and transgender issues are left out. It will be important to keep these findings in mind when teaching teachers how to work on LGBT issues in their classrooms.